Have you ever seen a movie or TV show or read a book and seen someone that shares your identity? Well, what you don't know is the years upon years of history that led to the creation of such representation.
Hi, our names are Lois, Jasmine, and Anna, and we're here to teach you how to be intentional about everything you consume. By consume, no, we don't mean food, but media. Media includes all social media, films, books, and news you take in on a daily basis.
No matter what community you identify with, seeing someone on the page or big screen share your culture can evoke a sense of pride in anyone. However, it's not always been this way. Let's take a look at how representation has changed over time and can change in the future. Female representation. Sparkly vampires and powerful love interests who is better, stronger, and faster than the main character in every single way. Sound familiar? Maybe this is a favorite book? We're talking about none other than the one and only Twilight by Stephenie Meyer.
Oh no, you say, but that book is so awesome. I grew up with it. Sure, maybe. But looking closer, you will realize that Bella is clumsy, perfect, and nothing without her beautiful Edward. On the other hand, Edward is powerful, sparkly, and is Bella's protector in every single way. Bella is extremely dependent on Edward, a damsel in distress, and she collapses in despair after Edward is forced to leave because his brother is also so much stronger, more powerful, and sparkly than Bella. New Moon, anyone?
In the beginning of the book, Bella is described as an independent character, but after Edward is introduced, she lives only to please him.
However, there's no need to fear because we're going to talk about one of our favorite movies, Legally Blonde. Now, the protagonist of Legally Blonde, Elle Woods, is portrayed as a strong, clever, and independent person, paving a way for herself in the world of law. Despite this, she still enjoys typically girly things like shopping, getting her hair done, and the color pink. This movie shows to the world that there's not just one type of strong woman or the feminist. That holds true because representation is multifaceted. She defies the traditional archetype of being a dumb blonde, and unlike a certain other main character, Elle does not need a man to show her through the world of law and bring her over her hurdles. Racial representation.
Gilmore Girls. What an absolute classic. Until it comes to the representation of Lane Kim. Koreans portrayed by Japanese people, stereotypical characterization, sounds like Stars Hollow may not be the pinnacle of life in a small, cozy town. Everyone in town knows about Mrs. Kim, the crazy Asian mom with a cluttered house, valuing bargains, and obsessed with sending her daughter off in an arranged marriage. The show pokes fun at Koreans in general for some short laughs from viewers, while the whole time, irreversible damage is being done to young and impressionable viewers. They now think this is how all Koreans are. The negative image is stuck with them.
Furthermore, how did the people behind Gilmore Girls even come up with such stereotypes? Between the creator of the show, Amy Sherman Palladino, being white, the actress for Lane Kim being of Japanese heritage, and without a person to differ on Korean culture, how can we expect Koreans to be accurately portrayed? Well, we can't. But fast forward to 2017, things have changed. Not only the inventions of iPads, but also how minorities are being treated in mainstream media. A great example is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, a debut novel turned critically acclaimed movie. In the book, star a strong-headed young girl who watches two of her friends gunned down by police officers before the age of 16.
In the beginning of the book, Star is shown as assimilated into her surroundings, which is a white private school. This is unfortunately a problem many young people of color run into in order to be accepted into society. However, Angie Thomas, who is black herself, writes Star as developing into a person with deeply ingrained culture. Star never backs down from a challenge and shows that black people can do amazing things just like anyone else, despite their race or financial means. The rich culture of the people and the unfair way in which African Americans are treated are written with the utmost respect, including real issues like gang violence, but never resorting to stereotypes or showing black characters as anything other than respectable human beings.
Queer representation.
For if she flees, soon she will pursue. If she refuses gifts, rather will she give them. If she does not love, soon she will love even unwilling. How scandalous, how terrible, how utterly against everything we've ever been taught. These are the thoughts of Pope Gregory VII when he read Sappho's works. Sappho was a renowned Greek poetess, many of whose works contained LGBTQ and sexual themes. Her works were widely read and praised during her lifetime. Plato, a philosopher, called Sappho the 10th muse, referring to the 9 muses of the fine arts and in Greek mythology. But after her death, that's a completely different story.
When the church got their hands on her work, they read them and were clutching their pearls. They decided that Sappho's works were a sin, so they tossed them into the fireplace to burn. 1,600 years later, there was an author by the name of Casey McQuiston sitting in a car, driving down the I-10 in Louisiana. She came up with a novel idea that would change queer media forever.
The second, Alex Claremont Diaz, fell in love with Henry George Edward James Fox Mount Christian Windsor. Red, White, and Royal Blue soared to the top of the New York Times bestseller list. Selling 100,000 copies in only 7 months, the story, chock full of representation, became a runaway success. It even happens that Alex is half Mexican, and his mom, not dad, is the first Madam President. The book was then made into a movie, which became the most watched film around the world on Prime. So how did McQuiston write representation so well that it created such success? Well, she herself is trans, so she is able to connect with and write believable queer characters without any stereotypes. McQuiston understood the struggles of being queer in a society full of discrimination and microaggressions and applied that experience carefully to the novel.
Future hurdles. Whoa, she's black and lesbian? Whoa, that's all she is. She has no life. There are still major problems with representation in media, one of which is casual representation of marginalized groups. Sometimes, whenever a character is part of a marginalized group, that's all there is to their identity. Recognizing that minorities are human also means recognizing they have a variety of traits that are completely unrelated to their identity. Of course, it will still be a part of their life, but regular human beings that belongs to marginalized groups are entitled to representation.
This isn't the only hurdle that still has to be overcome. Funnily enough, one hurdle comes from directors and writers knowing that people want representation. Using queer representation in the media for the purposes of engagement and profit is called queerbaiting, and hinting that 2 characters are queer, so queer people might watch the whole show trying to get even 3 seconds of representation. There even might be scenes added in to reinforce the idea that 2 characters might be queer. But in queerbaiting, there is no explicit confirmation that 2 characters are queer. This tactic grosses a large profit from people who didn't wish to watch the show or movie, but did so they can see themselves represented.
However, there is no need to fear because there are many ways to spot queerbaiting or when queer characters are being spoon-fed to the audience just for money. Sexuality will never be explicitly stated in an incident of queerbaiting, and many times there is a tension between 2 characters that implies they are more than just platonic while nothing ever happens. So, if there is a season and half or an hour and a half of such implications, then it is likely queerbaiting. Characters acting stereotypically queer, like masculine women or feminine men, are also examples.
Conclusion. Okay, to sum all this information up, or if you skip the video because your attention span is terrible, same.
Over time, representation of marginalized groups has improved with the use of tactics such as actors representing their own group, minority writers and directors, and normalization of minorities through quantity. However, there are still future hurdles that representation has yet to overcome, such as queerbaiting and lack of casual representation. Nevertheless, there are strategies that can be used to spot these problems in a piece of media. All in all, representation is vital to the growth of society as a whole and awareness about other people's rich identities.
We hope you can go out and keep ideas like this in mind when watching a new show or movie or reading a book.
Lois,
Jasmine,
And Anna, out.